Hi there, welcome back. In this video we're going to be taking a good look at the YUKA automatic robotic lawnmower from mammotion. Now almost a month ago somebody called Bright from mammotion got in touch with me and she said that she'd seen the video I did on the hedge cutter which cut the hedge behind us here. That was the Litherly one. A really good hedge cutter. I use it weekly because I've got a big garden. And she said, you know, you appear to have a pretty nice looking garden, which I do pride myself in. Would you like to take a look at our robotic lawnmower? So naturally I said yes, because I currently spend, or I used to spend, anywhere between 3 and 4 hours per week on my lawn, cutting it, edging it, basically just farting around with it and keeping it right. And now I don't have to, and that's fantastic. So I'll show you what arrived. I'll put it together, set it up, trial it, give you a few update videos which I'll splice in further through this video, and then I'll give you my final thoughts and whether I would recommend it. And spoiler alert, it's absolutely awesome, and yes, I would recommend it. Okay, so we've got all the bits out of the box. As you can see, there is quite a few bits, and there's also a couple of instruction books as well to help me put it together. I've flipped them all upside down because I've got to do a little bit of work in there to install another battery. And yeah, this is going to take me a while to put together, so I think I shall just edit this down considerably. So I'll go outdoors now and install the charging station. I think this looks like as good a place as any to put the charging station. It's just outside of my shed where I've got the batteries for the solar panels. So I've got a spare socket in there which I can feed this with. Now I'll just get it screwed into the ground. Okay, I still need to connect this up to the electric, but there's the charging station. There's our mower waiting to go in it, and there is the wireless sender receiver thing that'll cast the signal, hopefully over there around the corner and also up to the top of that bit of lawn as well. There's quite a lot of lawn to cover, so I'll connect it up, see if it works. If it doesn't, I may have to move this station. I'll lift the mower into position to start it charging, and then when it's fully charged, I'll get back to you. I would say that means it's on.
Start charging.
It talks as well. Well, I think my work here is done. Okay, so what I'm going to do now that I have the mower linked up to the Wi-Fi and the sender device also linked up to the Wi-Fi, that everything's communicating perfectly. Literally just took a few clicks. All I had to do is put the Wi-Fi password in. I'm now on a screen. Oh, hopefully you can see. My phone's terrible, but it basically allows me to control the mower backwards and forwards and left and right. And I've got to go all the way around the perimeter of my lawn with the mower in front of me very slowly so it can map out that perimeter. And once it learns the perimeter, it can cut out the middle of it. So let's get going. And bear in mind, my lawn is very big and it's all curves. Okay, so I'm going to go up onto the roof and I'll run along the ridge of the house and I'll show you my lawns. Hey, up there. Right. Now this is my main lawn. I call this one the best lawn because it's outside of the kitchen. And that's what we look out onto most of the time. So that's the one I take most care with. The next part of the lawn goes around the front of the house, which we can see if I go along to this ridge, hopefully without falling off. Woo. Right, that one goes all the way in front of the house. It narrows down here, that's the charging station and the RTK station. And then it goes round this other side, which we'll see if I run along that ridge. God, I wish I was Spider-Man. That's a charging station, that's where it sweeps around. Got quite an extensive lawn there as well. And then up here, we've got numerous raised beds. I've actually put that one as a different lawn, so that one is section 3, because each one of those beds is a no-go zone for the mower. It's a very difficult part, that. We'll take a close look at that now. Okay, so this is what I've classified as being my zone 3. You can see it's got awkward shapes up here, quite narrow passages between these raised beds, and all these raised beds have been made no-go zones. Now I haven't cut round here with my manual mower or my strimmer since setting this up, but it's done a pretty good job of cutting round here. Obviously it's missed a bit round here because I put the edge around that, or set the perimeter around that, should I say. It's done a cracking job, you know. I mean, it's cut pretty close into these no-go zones. The main part of the lawn, although it is very small, has been cut well all over the place. So it has done a good job, you know. And obviously on the main lawn it's done a cracking job because there's no real obstructions. Now this area here on the main lawn is a no-go zone. I just tightly pushed the mower around it to create the no-go zone on the app, and it doesn't bump into there now. Just cuts around it, treats it as a no-go zone, just like it does with all of these beds where I've got my fruit trees. This is awesome, but I don't know how straight the edges are going to be. I've never used this sort of thing before. I generally only use my phone for answering telephone calls and listening to podcasts. Now the further you push forward, the faster it'll go, but I don't want it to go fast because there's so many bends on this lawn. I just want to take it nice and easy, get it to map everything out perfectly, and hopefully that'll work. What is it? Poor little lad. Well, I've got to do something first. Yeah, well, you know, if you're a human you would understand. I know. You know, my lawn is so big and complicated that there's a very good chance that I may run out of batteries before I finally get all the way around it. Okay, so this is the next morning, and I waited until the morning to set the mower going just in case it got stuck or fell over the edge of any of the numerous drop-offs I've got around my lawns. And as you can see, it's working away very well. I haven't got the grass collection box on because I just want to let it cut the grass first, see how it goes on there, just make sure there's no obstacles that it could possibly get stuck under or in, because there is quite a few hazards in and around my various lawns. Okay, so I let the grass grow for a few days after feeding it, and we also had quite a lot of rain which helped it to grow. And then I cut it, or should I say the little lad there cut it, a little bit shorter than it normally would be. He's just stopped to go and empty that. So he cut it a little bit shorter than it would normally be, which resulted in a lot of muck to clean up. So I put the sweeper on the back, and he's been sweeping this up. I mean, you can see how tidy it is. There isn't a scrap left on here, you know. And he's just going to go and dump it in this dumping zone that I created on the app. So let's watch him do that. And now he's going back to work. Hopefully you can see the quality of the cut. Pretty good. So that's the exact spot that it stopped. Ah, now here we go. There's a big cone here. Come off this pine tree. I should have a go at that on the next pass. So let's see if it can sweep that up, because that's pretty heavy. Certainly bigger than the leaves and bits of grass it's been hoovering up. Whoop, there you go. I heard that one hit the back, it flicked it right in. It's doing a cracking job. Now for the demonstration purposes, I set the dumping zone to be here. But what I think I'll do is set it to be over there. There's a little bit of a recess in there between where I have my logs and where I have this big raised bed. And therefore I'll make like a virtual access road on the app from here across to the dumping zone here. It's well sheltered in there, so it should take everything from the lawn and put it somewhere other than the lawn, and that will allow it to concentrate on just cutting the whole lawn without giving any of it over to being a dumping zone. I'm not sure how well this is going to come out, but just in front of us here we've got bits where the sweeper has swept up the grass, and that's made it a little bit higher than it was when it was cut. And that's good. It's almost like a soft scarifying effect. You know, it removes all the stuff that's held in here, and then the next cut it'll just shave those tops off and level everything out perfectly. And we've got some bits here that used to be filled with moss, and I put feed and weed on a few days ago. It killed the moss. As you can see, the black patches where the moss has been getting killed off, and in this particular spot it seems to have removed all of that with that soft scarifying effect. So once the grass grows back, that area will look perfect again. Now I've got this set to empty, I think once every 14 square meters. I could probably make it go a little bit longer than that. You do have the option to adjust that in the app settings. Yeah, I could definitely get more than that in. I might try setting it to 20 square meters. But for this clear up operation, I just wanted to make sure that it got every single leaf and loose blade of grass, which it seems to have done. It's made a really good job. Okay, so roughly a month after receiving it, this is the state of my lawn now. This is the main lawn outside of the kitchen. And as you can see, it's pretty much emerald green. All the dodgy patches have been more or less filled in because I seeded it and nourished it with chicken manure, and also a little bit of feed and weed, so there's no weeds in it now. The mower has gently scarified out most of the moss that was in, although there is still a little few patches of moss. See how it's blackened by the feed and weed? That'll gradually get pulled out the next time I use the sweeper function. And it's just, I mean, look at that, man, you know. I know some people go absolutely ape over their lawns and, you know, spend a hell of a lot of money on it. I don't want to spend money on my lawn. I don't really want to spend much time on my lawn. And that fella helps me to spend almost no time on the lawn. And now the limit of my lawn care is basically just going onto my phone, bringing up the mammotion app, telling the lawnmower what to do, and just sitting back and watching him do it. Also, I still do have to go around the sides of the lawn, around the perimeter, near all these dry stone walls and various obstructions, because it is a very complicated lawn with a lot of different edging. That takes me about 10 minutes, once a fortnight. That's all it takes to keep the lawn looking like this, because that lad there does the rest of it. He does the heavy lifting, so I don't have to. And I've rewarded him by building him a house. So this is the little house I've made for him, right next to the RTK station, which incidentally is not in an optimal place, which I shall explain in a minute. And in there, we've got the charging station. So you can just go in there, undercover, keep nice and dry and clean, charge himself up, and then when I want him to come out, he literally reverses out and he goes to cut this lawn, or this lawn, or the other lawn. To be honest, all the lawns are linked, but you know, there is 3 distinct areas. And although there is communication between the charging station and the satellite location station, it isn't hampered by this plastic tube that I've made the house from. So, pros and cons of this robot lawnmower. Well, the pros are that it saves me hours every week in the summer to do the lawn, which I don't have to do now. As I say, I just fly around the edges, and that's all I need to do, just to check that all the edges are done. I might use a strimmer, I might use my traditional lawnmower. Either works, but the main part of the lawn is cut by the YUKA lawnmower, and it's cut really well, as you can see. Once the perimeter has been mapped out, that's set, that's stored in its mind, and it just goes about its business. You can change so many things in the app. You can change the cutting patterns, whether it does the perimeter first, or the zigzags first, or whether it makes a crisscross pattern. And that crisscross pattern can be like that, or it can be like that, that. Or you can have it just randomly cutting different angles every single time it cuts. So you get a good quality of cut. You don't get any tracks where it's going around the same place all the time. It doesn't waste time by going all over the place just randomly. It cuts it in a set pattern. It's very intelligent. When you set up your dumping zones, anything that you sweep up off the lawn is dumped in one place, and then you can either put it in a wheelbarrow and take it somewhere, or in my case, I can just get a rake and just throw it over the bankside, because we've got quite a lot of land here and it is on a bit of a hill. When I chuck that over the bankside, the slow worms, which is a sort of legless lizard, I absolutely love it. There's been numerous times I've gone over there and I've raked around in the pile and I've actually found them sitting there in the sun. So it's good for the wildlife as well. It does have a mild scarifying effect when it's using the sweeping function. That's great, because if you've got any moss in the lawn, if you kill the moss off like I have, it'll just gently remove that without affecting the grass. If you've just sown new grass, as soon as the grass is this high, you can put the sweeper function on and it doesn't pull that up. As I say, it has a very gentle scarifying effect. As long as your seedlings are about inch and a half high, it won't pull them up. so the sweeper is excellent. Because I've got a big solar system down there, I think there's 38 panels down there, mirrors to increase efficiency, it costs me nothing to charge this lad up. So basically, if you had a similar system to me, and you had solar on the house and you were cutting the grass during the day, once you'd bought this lad, it would cost you nothing to run, other than buying little, like little blades to go underneath. I think there's six blades underneath, because you've got 2 discs and each one has got either 3 or 4 on. Might be 6, might be 8, but they are generic blades, so you can buy them anywhere. Basically, if you're prepared to put the initial investment into the robotic lawnmower, it will pay for itself very quickly. And I actually did a bit of maths a couple of weeks ago, because somebody I saw in another video was saying, oh, what a total waste of money, it's really expensive. But bear this in mind, if I had to pay somebody to cut my grass, which is quite extensive, and go around with a strimmer and tidy up, it would at the very least cost me £10 an hour. I mean, you'd literally be paying a kid to do that for £10 an hour. If it takes 4 hours every week to cut my grass, that's 40 quid a week I could be spending on the grass, which is ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that, you know. And that's why I do it myself. For 6 months of the year, it'll take me about 4 hours to do the grass. For the other 6 months, it'll probably take half that amount of time. If you took all of that into account, it would probably cost somewhere around about 1,500 quid per year if I had to pay somebody to cut my grass at what is below minimum wage. Coincidentally, that is the cost of the base unit. That's it. Now the sweeper does cost extra, so if you bought the whole kit and you were paying somebody to cut your grass previously, if it was the size of mine, it would pay for itself in about a year and a half. To me, that is an excellent investment. And because it's freed up so much time for me, I've been getting out on my bike all the time. I'm trying to do like, I don't know, 100 miles a week or thereabouts on either of my bikes. So I'm getting fitter. I don't have to cut the grass. Grass is looking better than it's ever done, and all is good in my household. I've just come into the shade here because it's a beautiful September day, mid-September, northern England. The sun's beating down and I can hardly see because it's so bright. So I'm in the shade at the minute. And that's relevant because I'm going to be now throwing some shade upon that fella, because I'm going to go into problems, cons. We've done the pros and now we've got the cons. Obviously, if I bought this, the price of it would initially be a big investment, but as I've previously explained, that would rapidly pay for itself. It's a little bit like the solar system that I bought before 2020. I knew the electric prices were going to go crazy, so I saved up for 4 or 5 years before 2020, made the investment, got that in, and I haven't regretted it at all. Even my wife is happy with that. And my wife is very happy with the robot lawnmower as well. So the initial investment could be viewed as a negative point, because you can pick up a second-hand petrol lawnmower for next to nothing. As long as you're prepared to cut the grass yourself, go at it, you know. Having a robot lawnmower is a big investment, especially with this one if you add the sweeper kit as well. And really, I don't know of any other lawnmower that sweeps up after itself. There might be though, so you know, don't attack me. But to my knowledge, this is the only one that cuts the grass beautifully and also sweeps up. Another negative that I found, which may be down to my ancient phone not getting good connection, is that when I'm mapping the perimeter out, if I use the phone pad, it doesn't move fluidly. It'll go and stop, and it'll go and stop. And that might have something to do with the third negative, which I'll come on to in a minute. So what I do when I'm mapping out an area, I'll actually bend down, I'll grab a hold of the top of the mower, and I'll walk it around as I'm pressing forward on my phone to make sure it goes around the right points of the lawn. And with regard to the perimeter of the lawn, it cuts everything perfectly except the bits around the front here where we've got like a cobble edge, and also down the side of the house where we've got a very narrow corridor underneath trees. That coincidentally is also the furthest point from the RTK station, which is at a lower level. And that failure to cut right up to the edge, you know, it's maybe this far away, possibly this far away at some points, I'm sure is down to the signal from the positioning system to the lawnmower sometimes being lost. It can, on rare occasions, just get stuck down this corridor here, and it'll kind of wait for a minute or possibly 5-10 minutes, and then it'll get going again. The signal there is definitely lacking. So therefore, instead of the RTK station being down at the lowest point between the lawns, it's actually going to go right up on the apex of my house. I do have a mountain kit which has a solar panel to power it, and it also has a built-in battery in there. I think it's 9.6 amp hour battery, which is a huge battery in the back of this solar panel. So the solar panel will feed the RTK station. It has, if I remember rightly, I think about 14 days worth of battery power. So if we don't get any sun for 14 days, the lawnmower can still cut the grass, no problem at all. I'm pretty sure that the repositioning of that station will rectify the positioning issues that I've got at the far end of the house, because at the far end of the garden on the other side where it's unobstructed, it cuts fine. You know, other people set them up and it does cut perfectly, you know, when there's an unobstructed view to the RTK station and it's mounted up a height. That's the place to put it. That's where I should have put it straight away. I mounted it at exactly the wrong place on the lawn, and this little fella still works almost perfectly. The very last negative I'll say is, because of those positioning issues around this edge, sometimes the lawnmower does go to the wall and it doesn't recognize it as a boundary, even though I've set the boundaries, and you get little marks in the lawn. Sometimes those little marks of the wheel spinning can also be on the hills as well, because I do have some quite vicious slopes. If the grass is wet, it sometimes goes down there and then has to spin a little bit. Those little bits where it's dug into the lawn are very few and far between. Now I must say that when the weather's dry and the lawn is dry, on the slopes I don't get any of those problems. It can go down the slope, reverse back, turn around and drive anywhere at any angle on the slopes, no problems. However, to rectify that and allow this lad to cut the lawn in the wet, I do have some metal spikes that'll go on the wheels. I bought those, I think maybe on Amazon or something. They were like a third-party seller. They will allow it to climb up any slope, you know. Show those in another video. And really that's about it for the negatives. They're all just little niggles, and I'm sure the repositioning of the RTK station will sort out the vast majority of them. So really I'd just like to give props to mammotion, firstly, for sending me this lawnmower and the sweeper kit. It is absolutely awesome. It's a beautiful piece of technology. I didn't realise when I first saw the Husqvarna mowers years ago, when you needed the perimeter wire and all that sort of thing, that you could have something as easy to set up as this, you know, and it just gets on with it. It just works so well that, well, I'm very happy with it, and I would absolutely recommend it, you know. And I also want to give props to the Crazy Postman channel as well. When I was having a few teething problems, and, you know, because of my limited technical knowledge, I was struggling to set it up with the perimeter, and, you know, I was overawed by the app and all the different settings and what they do and so on. I used a lot of his videos to find out exactly what the different settings did on the app. So now I'm totally up to speed, really happy with how it goes, I literally just go out in the morning and think, oh, it's pretty dry. Okay, bring the app up. Yeah, I want to cut at a 45-degree angle, crisscross pattern. You know, 2 perimeter laps, no go zone laps, 1, 2, whatever. Bum, 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 bum. Check, everything okay? Yes, boosh. And it's away cutting. And then I can go and do something that I would much rather do as opposed to cutting the grass. That's all taken care of. We'll link to Crazy Postman's channel in the video description and also in the pinned comment because, you know, credit where credit's due. He does an excellent job. His videos are way better than mine as well. I'm okay talking to cameras and so on, but his videos, he has like little picture in pictures where he has the app brought up. You can see the mowing patterns and all the settings and everything and all that sort of thing. I'm not technological. I still managed to set this up with his help, but I can't make videos like that. So watch his videos for all the different settings. They're really detailed, simple to understand, and yeah, just check them out. But if I had to grade the mower, just the mower, I would give it a 10 out of 10. It's well made. It's so intelligent. It makes a beautiful job of cutting the grass. And as far as robotic lawnmowers go, it isn't outrageously expensive. If I was rating the sweeper kit, I would probably give that, well, considering my experiences anyway, I'd probably give that an 8 out of 10. It does a cracking job, but what I've found is that in the tight areas, which could have something to do with the positioning of the RTK station, in tight areas, it sometimes doesn't give itself enough space to turn around when it's cutting patterns in the lawn. That could just be down to the positioning of that station though, you know, so once that's sorted, it could easily be a 10 out of 10. The app, well, I'll give that a 9.5 out of 10. Once you know what the various things, what the various options do, it is very easy to understand, but it would be useful if each of those options just had a little I button. So you could click on that and it would tell you what that option did, how that altered the cutting pattern, how it altered things. That would be very, very useful because I had a look at other people's videos who'd been using these mowers much longer than me to find those out. The charging station, it works perfectly. The lawnmower has no problem finding it, but I would have liked to have seen that with a roof on. Obviously I've built a little house over mine, but I would have loved to have seen that just with some sort of roof to protect the mower from weather, because up here, northeast England, for 6 months of the year we tend to get rain. There's always leaves blowing in, there's muck dropping out the trees, there's pigeons sitting in the trees above where I've got the station, and I don't want the mower to end up looking messy and covered in pigeon muck, you know. So a little roof that went over there, even if it was available as an optional extra, would be very beneficial. So I would probably give the function of that a 10, but the design of that maybe a 6, just because it's lacking that roof. Overall, I have no idea what those scores add up to, but I'm exceptionally pleased. My wife is pleased. The lawn looks beautiful, so you can't wish for more than that. If you're interested in more videos on this particular mower, I will be producing more after like 3 months and 6 months, just to let you know how it's going as like progression videos. But in the meantime, check out Crazy Postman's channel, video description, and also in the pinned comment, because he's got loads of videos on this mower, and they're better than mine. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Check all the links out in the video description, and yeah, let's just see what we can do with our gardens.